Welcome everyone to this webinar. My name is Isabel and I'm a member of Pipefy's customer success team. Today we're going to talk about automations. The goal of this webinar is to learn more about how this advanced feature can help you and your team save time and make your processes more efficient and productive. This webinar will be divided into two portions. The first 10 to 15 minutes we'll talk a little bit about the concepts involved in automation, and then we'll move on to Pipefy so we can demonstrate how the automations actually work. The first thing we need to talk about is, what is automation? Automation is a system that employs automatic processes that command and control mechanisms for their own operations. The word automation originated from the Greek term automatos, that means moving on your own, or the one that moves on its own. The traditional concept of automation is almost always related to the idea of machines performing tasks without human interference, robots or artificial intelligence. The type of automation we're talking about today, though, refers to automating human work that's performed continuously and repeatedly in an almost robotic manner. Process automation is the application of computer technology with the goal of minimizing the necessary resources to perform a task, reducing costs and improving efficiency. It's a set of techniques focused on making processes more efficient by minimizing waste and making information security one of the greatest priorities. How do automations work in Pipefy? Automations is one of Pipefy's advanced features that allows users to automate actions using a specific type of logic, event, action. The logic is pretty simple. Whenever a specific pre-established event happens, an action, also pre-established, will automatically be triggered in response. How much time can you save? Based on usage data from the last few months, we estimate that each automation triggered can save an average of 8 minutes. You're going to see that we're going to set up 4 different automations in a single process. And if you set up 4 automations to automate a specific workflow, you save 32 minutes for each new card or activity that runs through that process. It may seem like just too little, 8 minutes or 32 minutes, but at the end of the day, especially if you have a big team working in a specific process, automations can help you save a lot of time and consequently money. Automations, as we mentioned, worked in an event action logic. We have 6 types of events and 5 types of actions. I'm going to present them all to you right now. An event is something that happens in Pipefy to kick off the previously set up automation flow. So the event is what triggers the automation. Created card. A card is created in a specific time and then it triggers the action. The action moved card. The action is triggered when a card is moved to a specific phase in a specific pipe. Updated field. The automation is triggered when a field is filled or updated. You can use a specific setting called conditions to determine that you only want to trigger the automation when the information in the field corresponds to what you want. So if you have a field that says yes or no, you can determine that the automation is only going to be triggered if the response is yes. All connected cards moved. The automation is triggered when all cards connected to a parent card are moved to a specific phase. Recurring activity. The automation is triggered at a specific day or time of the day. This specific event can only be related to the move card action as of today. We estimate that in the future, we're gonna be able to make recurring activities with other actions, but as for right now, you can only use it to move cards. And the last event is when an alert is triggered. So the automation is triggered when an alert, late, expired, or overdue, is triggered in a specific pipe. Action. The action is what happens in response to the event once the automation is triggered. So create card. When the event happens, a new card is created in a specific pipe. Create connected card. When the event happens, a new connected card is created in a specific pipe. Move parent card. When the event happens, the parent card is moved to a specific phase in a specific pipe. 4. Update field. When the event happens, the value or information in a field is updated. And last action is move card. So when the event happened, the card is moved to a specific phase in a specific pipe. Now I'm going to present some examples to you, which are the ones we're going to present in Pipefy. The first example is an approval flow, is the one we're going to set up together so you can understand how things work. And the other 3 examples I've set up previously, so I'm going to show you guys how they work. The first one, approval flow, You're going to set up automations so that it automatically creates cards in the approval process and move them across the approval and purchase processes. The second is recurring activities. We're going to set up an automation that will daily check for cards that are due today and move them to a phase that's auto-assigned to the manager of this team. Third example is sales follow-up. We're going to use the late alert to move cards to a specific phase called follow-up that has an email template, an automated email template set up. So if a customer doesn't respond within 3 days, let's say, it's going to automatically move the card to the follow-up phase and send them an automated email. And the fourth is to assign activities or assign cards. It's gonna automatically assign created cards. In this case, they're gonna be deals of different values. Deals under 5K will be assigned to a specific account manager, and deals over 5K will be assigned to a different manager. Before setting up an automation and seeing how everything works, let's understand a little bit more about our examples. The first example is an approval flow. This approval flow is connected to a purchase process with 5 phases: screening, quotation, approval, purchase, and delivery. The entire pipe is connected to the purchase approval pipe where the manager approves the requests. The problem with this process is that everything is manual. Creating the connected card in the approval flow is manual. Following up and moving connected cards is also done manually. It takes a lot of time for the team to check the pipes several times a day to move cards across the processes. You gotta be thinking there's gotta be another more effective way to do so, right? There actually is, and that's what I'm gonna show you guys. The second example is the recurring activity auto-assign. The manager should be automatically alerted, therefore we're assigning cards to him or her when a card task reaches its due date. Third example is lead qualification, the follow-up example we talked about. So it's going to automatically move cards to the follow-up phase when they become late. So we send an automated follow-up email. And the fourth example is the sales pipeline for the deal value. So we're going to automatically assign deals of different values to different account managers. Okay, it's almost time for action, but first there's a couple conditions we need to talk about. When setting up an automation event, users can establish conditions for triggering the action, which is what I mentioned you guys. You can determine that the updated field is only going to trigger the automation if the answer is the one you specified. In automations that involve moving cards, make sure the settings allow moving cards to that phase. You can make sure of that. I'm going to show you guys by editing the phases action buttons. So the automation can't be triggered if the pipe settings doesn't allow moving a card from phase A to phase B. So you need to set that up before creating the automation. And third is that before setting up an automation that involves creating or moving connected cards, you need to create a connection between these pipes. It may seem rather obvious to say so, but many people encounter errors with their automations because the cards are not being created as connected cards because there isn't a connection between the pipes. So it's very, very important to remember this part. All right. So the first thing we're going to do is show you guys how to set up the approval flow we mentioned. The first thing we need to do then is open both the purchase process and purchase approval pipes to make sure they are already connected and that the action buttons allow us to move cards the way we want to. First thing I'm going to do is access the sidebar menu and check if there's a connection, and we're going to create a new connection called purchase approval to the purchase approval pipe. There you go. It's going to create cards but multiple entries because some purchases need to be approved by more than one manager. So we'll hit save. And there you go, the connection is created. What the automation we're going to set up is going to move cards from approval to purchase. So we need to check approval settings. We're going to come here and check edit buttons, and everything's okay because it allows moving cards to purchase. Next thing we do is check the purchase approval pipe to see if the settings are fine as well. So we can see that it allows moving cards both from approval to approved and denied, which we're going to set up 2 different automations to move cards to either approved when the manager approves them or denied if the manager doesn't. Now we'll go back to our company dashboard, click on apps and integrations, then automations. We already have a few automations set up, which is the other ones we mentioned before, but we'll get to them later. So the first thing we'll do is click on new automation, and the first automation we're going to set up is going to create a new connected card in purchase process, in purchase approval, every time a card enters the approval phase of the purchase process. So we click here when a card is moved in purchase process to phase approval. We're going to create a new connected card, webinar, purchase approval. Once you set up an automation that creates a new connected card, you need to match the fields in the origin and destination pipe. So we click here. It's going to show us all the fields. I'm going to choose what needs to be purchased. I created a really simple purchase approval pipe, but if you want to, you can add more fields to the purchase approval pipe start form so you can gather more information from the parent card. So we're going to go ahead and create this automation. The second automation we want to create is actually divided into two parts. We want to determine that when a field is updated in the purchase approval pipe, we're going to select the field, do you approve this purchase request? And we're going to add a condition that determines that do you approve this purchase request is equal to yes. So if the manager clicks on yes, we're going to move card to the phase approved. Now we're going to create the automation for when the manager denies the request. So we click on when a field is updated. So in webinar purchase approval, we select the field. Do you approve this purchase request? And add the condition that the answer is equal to no. We save, and then we want to move card to phase denied. Then we hit on create automation. There we go. We have already created 3 automations. You can see here when a card is moved, when a field is updated, when a field is updated. Now we're going to wrap up the process by saying that when a card is moved in purchase approval to phase approved, we also want to move the parent card in the purchase process pipe to phase purchase, so that whenever the card enters the approved phase, it's going to trigger a second automation that's going to move the parent card to the next phase in the purchase process. We're going to create the automation, and let's move on to our purchase process. So let's just say our HDMI cable has already gone through quotation, so now we need to move it to approval. There you go, move it to approval. So with the automation we set up, whenever a card enters the approval phase, it automatically creates a connected card in purchase approval, as you can see here. So we'll go to purchase approval and see that the HDMI cable is here, and they have purchase request details and do you approve this purchase request or not. Let's be cool and hit yes. So we just leave it here. There you go. The card was moved to approved, and then with the third automation we set up, whenever the card entered the approved phase here, it was already moved forward in the purchase process, so it's here in the purchase phase. Now I'm going to show you guys the other automations we already set up. So the first one I'm going to demonstrate to you guys is the recurring activity we set up in a team task management pipe. So let's just open the task management pipe, and you can see here, let me show you the settings, that we set up a recurring activity. That in which pipe would the recurring activity happen in task management? It will happen every day at 10 a.m. And we've defined a scenario that says that it will only trigger with cards whose due date is today. Whenever you're creating an automation including a recurring task, you can set up different scenarios so that it's kind of like the conditions, but not the same, because the conditions are only related to the fields, and the scenarios can be related to specific periods of time or the creator, assignee, etc. So there we go, we just selected the action, and we wanted to move cards to the phase due today. I'm gonna show you guys here that this phase, due today, is automatically assigned to me, considering I'm the one responsible for managing these tasks. So whenever the automation is triggered, the tasks are moved into the phase due today and then automatically assigned to myself. You can see that both these cards have been moved this morning at 10 a.m. when the automation triggered, and they have been assigned to myself. And the last example I'm going to show you guys is in the sales process. And then we created two different automations so that when a card is created in Pipe sales process and it has the deal value is less than 5,000, the field team or team member is automatically updated with Victoria's name. And then we created a second one that states that whenever the deal value is more than 5K, it automatically assigns cards to Carol. So move back to the sales process. Let's just create a new card. Create a new opportunity. You guys can see that the value is over 5K, so it's going to be assigned to Carol. In the meantime, let's create another one. There you go. This deal over 5,000 was automatically assigned to Carol. There you go. It sometimes takes a few seconds, so it's triggered, but it's been assigned directly to Victoria. This is very useful when you have different account managers for different account sizes. There is some important information that you must always consider when creating or using automations. The first one is permissions. The phase settings must allow moving cards between the automation phases. So you can move the card or move the parent card. Second one is mandatory fields. If the destination pipe start form has any mandatory fields, they must be filled when matching the information between the origin and destination pipe. Third is start form only. The fields in the origin pipe can only be matched to the fields in the start form of the destination pipe. Fourth is matching fields. When matching fields to create connected cards, the corresponding fields must be of the same type. So a number field is matched to another number field, short text, etc. And the fifth is update field. The updating field event allows you to update fields from the same pipe you've selected in the event. So it doesn't really allow you to move a card in pipe A and update a field in pipe B, at least not yet. There are some other examples in which automations can be used in different situations to make companies more efficient, such as activity status. So whenever a team finishes a task, the parent card is automatically moved in the team status pipe. Here we have a general customer success activity pipe, and each of us has its separate task pipe so we can manage them. We have automations set up so that whenever I move a card from the team pipe whenever I move a card in my pipe from backlog to doing, it also does the same in the team pipe, and when I move it to done, it moves the card in the team pipe to done. The second situation is post sales. So let's assume you have different post sales teams for different sizes of values. So you can specify that a connected card is be created in a specific post sales team pipe if the sales deal value is more than a specific number, or if you have different post sales teams for different industries. You can set up automations, create connected cards in different pipes depending on a specific condition. The third and last example is new employee onboarding. So we can set up a connection and an automation so that whenever a card reaches the end of the hiring process, we're going to automatically create a new card in the employee onboarding pipe. This is it for the content today, guys. If you have any questions, you can send them to me in a chat. Anton asked, wondering how many automations we can have in an account. It depends on your plan, Anton. So you guys know that we have 4 different plans: the free, professional, business, and enterprise. And if you click here to show all features and compare all plans, you can see here in the automation that in the free plan you can set 1 automation rule, in the professional 5 automation rules, in the business 15 automation rules, and if you have an enterprise plan, we create customized plans for each enterprise customer. Anton asked if 1 automation is, for example, moving a card at the end of a pipe. Yes, Anton, each one of those I showed you guys here. So each of these is a separate automation. So each automation has a specific event and a specific action. We can set up multiple automations in the same flow to make it entirely automated, Or we can just set up a single automation at the end of a pipe to create a connected card, as the post-sales example I mentioned. Guys, if you have any specific scenarios or different use cases you're interested in for automations, feel free to write to me. My email is isabel@pipefy.com, and I'm always available via my email or the in-app chat to help you guys with your questions. Thank you all for joining us here today, and we'll see each other on the next webinars.